Hello everyone, this is a reply video about guides. I don't usually use guides very often. However, I do like getting very old guides because they're colorful and they actually used to be useful and stuff, as opposed to bleh. But this is probably one of my favorite guides I ever found for like $1.50. Kind of a random thing to ever find. But, so, the question, like I said, is should we use guides? Or guides something we should? Do they spoil the fun? Do they ruin the experience? And I think there are a few different defining things to really which term I want to use. Just to consider, basically. I think really guides a lot of times do ruin the experience of an RPG. When it's like a competitive level, like maybe, like if it's a guidebook to say like how to play StarCraft and strategies online, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. But the unknown, to me, I mean, like, I like strategic games. So, the fun is devising it, to figure it out. Now, I'm not saying that means you're an awful person if you don't do that. That's not necessarily. I'm just telling you how I personally deal with that. Now, of course, people know I have Japanese games. I have lots of Japanese games. I have lots of Super Nintendo Japanese games and that, which some have translations and some do not. So the question is there, what do you do then? Well, that again also depends on the game. Like, if it's an RPG, you really don't have a lot of choices if you can't read Japanese. You kind of need something pointing you in the right direction. However, with something like, say, Rocket Slime on the Game Boy Advance is incredibly straightforward, and there was only one time that is slightly confusing on what you need to do to keep going forward. It's a very simplistic game. In RPGs, obviously, it's not very easy when you can't read anything. So, generally, when it comes to role-playing games and that, if there's only one real ending, basically, just you're going from the beginning to the end, there's one ending, or maybe there's like a super extra boss or something for a little extra ending or something, I generally don't use a guide or anything. I don't really get stuck so simply. The worst that happens is I got killed, so I need to go back, reevaluate what I want to do, and then push forward again. It's not like I have no idea where I want to go. That's not usually a common problem. Now, of course, that's referring to now, not like in the past. And what I find really funny is about Remote RPG's video, I had that exact same problem on Link's Awakening. That's hilarious. I never knew any of the enemy names back when I was a child for Zelda enemies. So I didn't know what a pull voice was, which are the rabbits, which on the NES version, NES controls in Japan had a little mic, and you basically had to make noise to kill them. Of course, that doesn't exist on the American NES, so they had to make it where you could actually kill them with weaponry. So, and on the Game Boy, as far as I'm aware of, there is no way to do that, so again, you just had to kill them. And I didn't understand, because Link's Awakening was like my second Zelda game, I believe? Second or third. I played the original Zelda. I never got to experience Zelda 2 really when I was a kid. That's something that came much later. I did actually play it once, but we didn't own it. It was just something somebody came over. It's like, here, you can try this, and it was a totally different thing, so it didn't really get it. Now, of course, one of my favorites, of course, Link to the Past. And history was, of course, made though. But yeah, I think it was my second Zelda game. So, I was still getting really familiar with Zelda elements and stuff. It wasn't just like, oh, I knew everything. You know, it wasn't like what Twilight puts is like, everything has basically been done. The only thing is I need to consider 2 hook shots. And there's an occasional thing that spins in, and that's it. About everything else has been always seen before, billions of times. Bombs of the dongles, anyway. So that is kind of funny. I don't quite remember how long. I literally did do almost everything imaginable until I finally realized that was the case to kill him. But, I really don't find it necessary to use guides too often in a lot of instances. But, again, like I said, I would also be a liar if I said no. I mean, stuff like examples like Persona 4, the Suikoden series and stuff, which have all these different endings, paths, and, you know, you got the 108 stars to collect in the Suikoden titles if you want the true ending and stuff. These are where my exception comes from. Generally, when a game comes out, I get an idea of whether it's going to have multiple endings or not, which is usually pretty simple to find out, without spoiling it. Now, of course, the tricky thing is to figure out the way to the true path without outright spoiling everything. And I have a few special sources and things, or trusty people that may or may not know the answers, and I would usually go seek them first before asking random strangers. With the Suikoden titles, it's probably the most work I ever done in trying to keep the games as spoiler-free as possible, which sadly is almost impossible, really, is to get a list of all the characters, where they are, and when you can get them and stuff. So generally, it's almost impossible to really do that. Unless, you know, obviously you're going to replay it over and over again. But I generally don't have time to do that. I always invest tons of time in the games and that. I have a job. I have things to do. I go New York and stuff occasionally and that, you know. I do other stuff and that, but I do spend a lot, I'm not gonna lie, I do spend a lot of time with games too, but, you know, I also have so much limited time, and I obviously don't want to waste tons of time. Like, I like figuring out stuff, you know, failing, retrying, you know, that's like the, you know, that's one of the main things that's interesting about Dark Souls and that, but I don't obviously want to just keep whamming my head into a fucking wall for 20 hours like I'm DSP or something. You know, that's not exactly something I enjoy either. And that's a pretty rare occasion these days. Not to say they don't exist anymore. So overall, really I try to avoid guides like the plague, but when there's multiple endings in there, I really want to aim for the true ending. And about the only time I ever told a game to just fuck your true ending is Final Fantasy X-2. I was like, fuck Titus, I'm not doing 5 million little mini games. Wow, just, I don't think I've seen so much bullshit to get some kind of true ultimate ending before, like, seriously. That's probably one of the few times I ever just went, fuck it. Totally fuck it. Just, and my Aaron's brother has the ultimate guide thing for that, and I was just looking through and I was like, I don't even give a shit, I'm just being it. Same final boss, kick its ass, there we go. I can look at Titus coming from the ocean and fucking YouTube. It's like, whoop-de-doo. But, that's basically my random thoughts. There's nothing wrong with using guides, I personally don't think. I think it just really has to do with how much time and how much time you're willing to try and figure out something before you're just like, okay, I need to get a few hints or ideas here. Because apparently I'm not figuring it out. And there's nothing wrong with that either, because everyone thinks differently. That's why I like, really like with Professor Layton. Pull out Professor Layton, get a group of your friends, and everyone just, like, get to a puzzle, everyone pass it around, write your answer down, and you'll find different puzzles and shit people are just so much better at, and other ones suck at, but they'll be better at a different type of puzzle than that. It's the same thing, you know? You have different ways of thinking and intaking and processing information, you know? You're going to come up with something maybe slightly different from other people. So you might not always come to the same exact conclusion. So you might just end up getting your head slammed into the ground and to only find out the answer was just simple, you know? It happens. Not everyone can just go, oh yeah. Not to everything, you know? So that's my thoughts on guides for video games. There's nothing wrong with it, but, you know, it just really comes down to your time, your investment, you're willing to give it. I do really consider them worthless for, like, just generally fighting games and first-person shooters for the most part, like those single-player stories and stuff. Like, I don't really understand that. And MMO guides, aside from music for maps, are just going to get majorly outdated. But of course, the World of Warcraft guides that came with my war chest did have a lot of interesting information about old WoW, though. So, not completely useless, you know, interesting for old knowledge. And like I said, I like collecting a lot of old guides. You know, actually, that's something funny to say about the World of Warcraft guides. So, actually pretty nice guides. It's just, you know, they're outdated and half the information doesn't even exist thanks to Cataclysm. But they're actually pretty nice to look back if you're really interested in understanding how our landscape quests and old world bosses and stuff, you know. But aside from that, yeah, we're digressing away from the topic. Anyway, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong. We're not here to go with like, you're a horrifying person or anything here. So, yeah. That's my thoughts. That's what I think. And nobody ever get confused that Pole Voice is a fucking rabbit with no legs in The Legend of Zelda. Killed with sound! Action!